Hey man, it's your boy Chandra from the IDK podcast. Let me tell you something. If you're hearing this from Spotify, Apple Music, or any other podcast forum, it's because of this awesome app called Anchor. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Okay, it's free. There's these awesome creation tools that allow me to record and edit my podcast on my phone, on my computer, wherever I'm at. And Anchor allows me to distribute my podcast so that you're hearing it everywhere. They take care of all the RSS things for me, so I don't have to go through all of that. They also help you get sponsorships. In fact, this ad right now is sponsored by them, and you don't even have to have a listening ship just to get a sponsor. It's everything you need in a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm. That's anchor.fm to get started. Alright guys, welcome back to the show. This is Chandra, your host of the IDK cast. And I wish there was a lot to talk about this week. However, there is not. So I'm not gonna lie, this is probably gonna be a shorter podcast. First off, I just want to tell everybody, number one, stay inside, wash your hands. Make sure you do that, because that's one of the probably most important things that we can do right now. Wash our hands, limit our contact with other people. If you do have to be around people, try to stay 6 feet apart or more. If you're going out to the groceries, one of the things that I'm doing is I am only allowing certain people to come with me, or try to limit at all, because I do live with others. So, and it's usually a group activity to do groceries. Unfortunately, we're trying to limit the amount of people that can potentially get exposed to the virus, so it'll only be myself or one other person. So that's a good tip that you can use right there. Again, guys, just make sure you're not touching your face, especially your nose, your eyes, your ears. Those are the orifices that allow viruses to enter your body. So definitely do not touch your face, wash your hands. Also want to do a quick just kind of like a PSA for everybody. There has been a lot of people losing people. I've been seeing on our Twitter page, I've been seeing on our Facebook page, a lot of people have been losing loved ones, wives, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters. And to everyone that is losing someone, I just want to say, prayers up for you. I'll definitely be keeping you in my prayers. This is just such a hard time for everybody, and I completely understand. Just want everybody to stay safe. If you have lost a loved one, again, I deeply apologize. And I just want to wish you the best. Hopefully this is something you will be able to overcome. So, like I said, the sports well is definitely drying up regards to news. So we're definitely probably going to be doing that much anticipated live show. We're just trying to figure out the mechanics. If we're going to move to Twitch, I will let you guys know on our Twitter. If we move into Twitch, I'll give you, the username, everything. And of course, either that Wednesday or that Thursday, we'll be streaming a game. More than likely, probably the first game will probably be the 2008 final series, the Lakers and the Celtics, because that was one of my first NBA series. Of course, before that was the 2004 playoff series, but we all know the Sacramento Kings didn't go to the finals, so that was one of the first NBA final series that I watched. So we'll probably be going over that, maybe go all the way up to the last game. So, in regards to NFL, I'm just going to go over what we got so far. It's not a whole lot. One thing real quick, just breaking news, is that the Buccaneers have found Tom Brady his backup. So that definitely means Jameis Winston is definitely not going to be trying to get back with the Buccaneers. So that leaves Jameis Winston and Cam Newton still out in the free agent market. The problem is, however, the free agent market is beginning to close. I haven't heard anything of the what as to whether or not they are going to extend the free agency because of the coronavirus. More than likely not, because a lot of deals were already put in place before it got really big and everything got shut down. But it is a little unfair to people like Jameis and Cam Newton, who, they want to be able to make deals. However, because of the coronavirus, no one is trying to do any physical testing, trying to put players in potential risk of being exposed to the virus and whatnot. So they are in a bit of a limbo. It should be interesting whether or not the NFL will be making any accommodations because of that. I do think, again, that should be pretty fair and something pretty obvious, but we all know the NFL is not necessarily going to be involved in things that are more fair towards the players. They're much more organizational focused, much more the backroom, backdoor focus than they are for players. That's more so the NBA's kind of thing. Speaking of the NBA, got a little bit of news towards that. If you guys have been paying attention to our Twitter, of course, we've been reposting a lot of things. Haven't been able to make too many original tweets just because there's just not a lot going on for us to report on. But one thing that is pretty interesting right now is that the NBA and the Players Association are discussing a lot of scenarios in regards to what they are going to do pay-wise for the remaining games that we are probably going to miss. So one of the things is they are potentially going to hold up to about a quarter of the money that you would normally get as a player for playing a game. Okay, and I'm just like okay with that. I'm not quite sure why they will want to withhold the pay. It's not necessarily their fault. It's not like they're intentionally not playing games. They just can't play games because that's a health hazard. So that's kind of, to me, very wrong, I think, for lack of a better term. These kinds of scenarios usually are technically worked out in contracts, but for them to be still scrambling and still being in talks with the the NBA PA, to me says that they really thought this would be a contingency, but not necessarily something that they planned for, much like the government. I mean, we usually try to think of life as normative, and we don't necessarily put together extensive, comprehensive plans for in events like emergencies such as the one occurring now with the coronavirus, which, I completely understand. To me, I'm more of an effective planner. I try to thoroughly think out those types of situations. So to me, this doesn't make any sense, but at least they're trying something with being in negotiations and trying to figure out how much of the salary is going to be withheld for them. I also feel that if the salaries are going to be withheld up to the 25%, that they should then donate that 25% towards possibly getting the personal protective gear for nurses and stuff like that, or just donating this money so that families that are being affected, we all know that a lot of people are out of work right now, so those families that are being affected, creating some sort of like a trust fund in order to expend that money just for right now. That doesn't necessarily have to be something that they keep, but I feel like instead of just keeping the money just to keep the money, in order for them to, in a way, recoup their losses for missing this entire year, in a sense, it is technically dead money. So the best thing that they can do with it is create some type of a charitable trust fund and use that money towards something more positive for the community. We'll see about that. So we're definitely going to keep our eye on that. We don't know what they're going to be doing with it. I haven't heard too much noise about how much pay is going to be withheld from these players. of course, for the most part, it doesn't really matter to most of these players because they have more than enough money to take care of themselves. But something else pretty interesting about this whole deal is that it is alleged that LeBron, KD, and Kyrie have negotiated an all-you-can-get deal with the NBA. This basically means that they are probably going to receive all or the majority of their pay, regardless of whether or not the NBA chooses to withhold any of the pay from players for the rest of the season. So, wow. To me is completely selfish. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kyrie, if you guys remember, he is actually the head of the Players Association for the NBA. For him to have not tried to have worked that into at least most people's contracts or during the CBA, because if you guys remember, they just had their own CBA come up and they just redid the terms and everything like that. Completely selfish, like literally completely selfish. I would not be surprised if this is one of the schemes between Rich Paul and LeBron James. These are the types of contingencies. It's something that you would attribute to them. It's extremely selfish, extremely greedy. Both Rich Paul and LeBron James are multi-millionaires. Losing pay for the rest of the season, potentially, it really shouldn't matter to you, bro. Like, of all the people that will literally be suffering economically because of this whole coronavirus thing, they are probably one of the least likely people to have suffered anything that they won't be able to recoup even next season. So to me, that completely selfish of them to have even done that. Definitely selfish of Kyrie to have not worked that into the CBA that they just signed off on. But to me, also very typical attitude of these players, particularly Kyrie and KD. Someone who didn't even do anything the entire season, so he's basically going to be getting his base pay. He's not going to be getting the active pay as if he was doing anything, playing wise during the season. So, wow, I'm just flabbergasted, shocked. It's completely selfish, definitely. It's wow, completely crazy, guys. Some things that people will do in order to make sure that they still have money, even though they still have money. There's also talk going around that Gordon Hayward will possibly be exercising his player option with the Celtics. Can't believe that's something that's necessarily on his mind right now, but hey, he's probably bored at home like the rest of us, so he might as well be thinking something towards furthering his career. If he does exercise this option, I'm not going to say that it's going to be bad for the Celtics because they do have a pretty solid group. I don't necessarily think that they're going to be making any real moves during the off season. If they do, I will be surprised, other than the usual expiring contracts. If I were them, I would more than likely try to just renew those contracts. Just try to keep as many people that they already have. They have a very solid team right now. They really don't need anybody. And then just during the draft, possibly get some young players you can just develop and work into your bench, because they really don't need anybody. Like I said, they have a very solid group. Very productive score-wise. What were they, like number 3 seed? So they really don't need too many other people. So we're going to be seeing what they're doing with that. Other than that, I believe the NFL is going to be trying to do the NFL draft. Well, they already announced that they were going to be doing the NFL draft electronically, and it's going to be essential players only. That may change, and they're just going to do nobody. It's just going to be all electronic. which should be pretty interesting to see. Something similar to what the WNBA is going to be doing for their draft is going to be all electronic, live streamed through the main of ESPN, not ESPN2. Of course, the MLB season has been moved back a little bit. We're going to be seeing potentially a draft in July. Maybe a little, they're probably going to have a little bit less rounds than usual. And other than that, guys, it's pretty much quiet around here towards the sports industry. I mean, it is sad, but this is technically our bread and butter towards what we do. Talk about sports news, all that stuff like that. Unfortunately, with the NFL free agency really coming to a close, I mean, there's some last minute deals going around. I believe the Bengals just let go of one of their cornerbacks. Other than that, it's really not that much going on. Overall, during this free agency, I think it's been pretty. There's been a lot of surprising changes. Of course, the biggest surprise was Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. And we had, of course, Phillips going to the Colts. A lot of movement going on for the Panthers still. They just signed a couple of wide receivers. Other than that, not too much else going on. But we do have a brand new, not a segment, but a series that we're going to be starting during this time that there's not that much going on. The series is going to be called What Happened. The series is going to cover players, teams from the NBA and the NFL that had almost life-altering for the players and the team, things that happened to them or decisions that they made that completely changed the course of the team's history and completely changed the course of a player's career. Today we're going to be talking about the Baltimore Bullets. You guys should actually be pretty surprised that they actually started back in the 1940s, but I don't want to give away too much. It's actually going to be a pretty good segment next coming up for our cover story, starting the series What Happened. We're also potentially going to be starting another series if the well is just completely dry, called How to Manage a Franchise, which is going to be looking at more underperforming NFL franchises and seeing how they can fix themselves and get themselves on the right track, even though they necessarily may be a small market team. So it will be pretty interesting. It's going to be a lot of creativity going forth, and I hope you guys are definitely going to enjoy that. I hope you guys enjoy the next segment. Of course, we're going to take our usual break. Y'all can chill, make sure that your drinks are refilled, all that stuff like that. Of course, I love you guys. I want you guys to stay safe, and I want you to tune in for the next part of this podcast episode. All right, guys. Okay, guys, very quickly. If you guys have been paying attention to our Twitter, don't forget to follow us on our Twitter, by the way, at the IDK_cast, all lowercase, at IDK_cast. If you follow us on our Twitter, you will know that we have officially become part of Stitcher, and we have become part of TuneIn Radio. So you can follow us on those platforms if that's your preferred mode of doing things. So on TuneIn Radio, you can listen to us within your Amazon Alexa or your Google, I think it's called Google Home, or your Apple device, whatever Bluetooth speaker that you have is connected to the internet. You can follow us on there. Also on Stitcher. If you guys have never heard of Stitcher, it's one of the podcast platforms that is very popular nowadays. For good reason. They have a lot of exclusive podcasts, a lot of podcasts that only do stuff on Stitcher. I have found some pretty good ones on there, so it's something that I've been trying to do for quite some time now. I think about we've been working to do that for about a month or so. So we've officially become part of Stitcher. Guys, if you want to listen to us on Stitcher, you should know that Stitcher is free. However, they do come with ads, much like Spotify. However, if you guys take this code, and the code is all caps IDK, is our special promo code. You can listen to 1 month of Stitcher for free, ad free. So that means you get all of us, plus you get any other podcast that you guys like, whether or not you like other people's takes on sports, entertainment, movies, comedy, all types of podcasts out there. If you guys want to enjoy that for at Stitcher for 1 month free, 1 month free, you guys get to enjoy it with my special code at IDK. So remember, use our promo code, all caps IDK, and you get to listen to Stitcher for free for 1 month. If you guys really like it, of course, stay around. It's $4.99 a month, so it's a lot less than any other subscriptions. Most of them are like $9.99 a month, so it's $4.99 a month. $5, and you're helping this podcast stay on. If you help contribute with us using our code for the first month free, IDK. Hopefully, you guys listening to me on Stitcher and enjoying it along with every other podcast that you guys enjoy. Alright, we're going to begin our series, What Happened, starting with the Baltimore Bullets. Moses Malone, Gus Jordan, Ray Scott, and their famous Manute Bol and Muggsy Bogues picture. And yet, seemingly all of a sudden, like the Colts slept under the cover of night to become the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Bullets became the Washington Wizards and based themselves in D.C. But how did the much-loved basketball team become the pride of yesteryears gone by? What made the owners quit on Baltimore as a viable NBA town? Really, all in all, what happened? Okay, to really understand the whole picture, we have to start at the beginning. And that takes us to Chicago, Illinois. Enter the Chicago Packers, an oddly named NBA expansion team that was supposed to be a nod to the then prolific meatpacking industry in Chicago. The Packers' inaugural year in '61 was, to be fairly honest, abysmal, with the worst record in the league ever at 1862. After '61, the team completely changed from the top down. New ownership, from David Traeger to Abe Parlin, new head coach, new arena, and even a new name, the Chicago Zephyrs. The team got renamed because of the bitter NFL rivalry between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. Plus, many Chicagoans just found the name downright confusing. The team's new name came from Greek mythology. Zephyr was the Greek god of the west wind, and well, Chicago is known as the Windy City. Unfortunately, there were no winds of change for the Zephyrs, who ended the 62-63 year at 25-55. So, in 1963, the Zephyrs packed up and left for Baltimore. So, what really led to all of this chaos that was going on? You can blame it on poor game attendance, what was quoted as poor training facilities. Even Frank Lane, the GM of the Zephyrs at the time, was cited saying, "I think a decision has already been made to move to Baltimore. We just don't have anywhere to play." Basically, Chicago was too much of a football city that it wouldn't give much credence or space to any other sport until 1966, when the Bulls came to the Windy City. So the team up and went to Baltimore within 8 days to take the Charm City's lucrative offer. The team would take the name of the folded team, the Baltimore Bullets. Wait a minute. I thought the Bullets didn't exist before the Zephyrs came to Baltimore. So why did the team fold and years later guarantee the execs of the Chicago Zephyrs loads of money to be a team there if their previous team had folded? Turns out, the real story starts even further than the 60s. Enter stage the Baltimore Bullets, circa 1949. Technically, the Bullets started in 44, but that was not for the NBA, but the ABA. And we're just going to focus on the NBA Bullets for this part. The Bullets had folded in 54 with a record of 3-11, becoming the last folded team in NBA history. The reason that they folded is actually multifaceted. The arena was too small, players were fighting in the locker rooms, and the head coach was an alleged drunk who wouldn't often show up for away games. There were just too many reasons for them not to remain a team. So, exit stage right for the 54 Bullets. Center stage, 63 Bullets. In terms of basketball, they were slightly more successful than they were in Chicago, even making the playoffs in 69. But then their star player, Earl of Pearl Monroe, requested a trade out and landed with the Knicks. To make matters even worse, Baltimore was becoming a more and more dangerous place to be in, with a budding drug epidemic and high crime rates. It didn't take long for Abe Pollin to take his team back on the road to Landover, Maryland, and rename them the Capital Bullets. There, the Bullets began increasing their stride and eventually won an NBA championship against the Seattle Sonics. But even that didn't last long. Increasing crime rates forced a name change and a location change. Pollin ended up apologizing for having the team named the Capital Bullets. He was thinking about them being faster than a bullet, but unfortunately there were too many bullets being used within the area. So he renamed them the Washington Wizards. After that, everybody knows the story. The Wizards have flirted with success and, at times, even top players, but have yet to make any real strides in success. So in the end, that's what happened to the Baltimore Bullets. Let us know who you think we should talk about next time for this segment. What happened?